Hello and welcome back. I am Karjan, and this is Let's Art Operation Blinking Mirror. Last episode we finished with the lines on these two up here, so now we're going to start working on this grouping of characters down here. Okay. So I think the first thing I'm going to do, besides turning off the background again, so that I can properly see, is fix his face. Because it is far too... Let's see. Like that. And then the muzzle gets moved in. Slightly. What? Undo. Okay. Looks like I had accidentally selected like a single pixel or something like that. Okay, that's slightly better. Alright. Zoom in a bit more. I do zoom in quite a lot, and as I believe I said previously, I mostly do that because my eyesight isn't as good as it probably should be. I've worn glasses for all of my life, and it's quite often that I stare at a computer screen too much, so it gets difficult for me to actually see. On top of which, I have astigmatism. I'm not nearsighted or farsighted or anything. I have astigmatism, which just means that I can't focus properly. So I end up squinting and zooming in on things quite often in order to get a clear picture of what I'm doing. It could be a lot worse than it actually is. I can actually see without my glasses on. Fairly well, actually. And I've even learned how to read without my glasses on. Although I can be wrong about what I read, because I'm not actually reading if I'm reading something without my glasses on. It's more of a fact that I've memorized patterns of letter structure. So I know if a word that I see has, you know, this many lines going above the middle line and this many lines going below the middle line, it's probably this word. Or it's another word that's similar to it. So that's how I read without my glasses on. It's very touch and go. And usually I have to end up holding the screen much too close to my face. Or book. Because I tend to do it with books a lot more than I do it with screens. That I'll end up holding something right up close to my face. It's probably not very good for my eyesight, but I keep doing it, and I highly doubt that I will ever stop doing it. It's a habit at this point. This all going a little bit too thin on these lines. So, I'm not entirely sure what to talk about at this point. I guess I could continue rambling about video games, but I've hit most of the games that I play already. Well, not most of them. I have a large video game collection. Some of which you know, got bought and then never played because I just don't have the time. Okay, so I need to do this. Like this. And then we zoom in really close. Bring this up to a few pixels. Whoops. I was wondering why that wasn't erasing anything. Just because it wasn't set to eraser. What a surprise. Okay. Like that. That's okay, I needed this down this small anyway. So that I could put the thin line, the thin back in place. Oh, double taps. Okay. All better. Oops. Zoom back in. And get this wider again. Oops. So yeah, I have a very extensive game library. All of which I do eventually intend to finish. That's not the proper place to put that. Here, and here, and in here. And then let's... Oops, not that small. I mentioned at one point that I do prefer working with the tablet PC because my hand is in the way, and it gives me more of a feel of control. Well, my hand is quite literally in the way when I do the slider control things. I can't actually see unless I really pick my hand up to look. I can't actually see what it's being set at. And while I could do it the easy way by just typing in the pixel value that I want, I just never got into the habit of doing that. So it doesn't occur to me. Although honestly, a lot of that is because of using the tablet in actual tablet mode. I'm using it in computer mode right now. But when you put it into tablet mode, you lose access to the keyboard. You lose easy access to the keyboard. So I tend to do as much as I can with controller taps instead of keyboard presses, except for undo, which is Control-Alt-Z, I believe. And that I've always done with just the keyboard, as opposed to going up to the edit undo. Because Control, Alt, and Z are all really close to the edge of the keyboard, so it doesn't take much to just lift the screen up that small little fraction that I need to slip my fingers in order to properly click the undo controls. Getting a little bit sloppy here. It's probably because it's late at night at this point. And by late at night, I mean it's currently 2 a.m. Basically, I'm running out of time, so I'm working late into the night. Honestly, it's not that unusual for me to do. Go on and on into the night much more than you would expect. I've always been very much a night owl. tend to dislike the sun. It's too bright for my taste. Oh, this is on the internal, so the thumb is going to be... Excuse me. I'm not used to talking this much, and even with the breaks I've been taking and the chocolate I've been consuming, my throat is starting to get a bit sore from talking all this time. End up talking myself hoarse is what I'm gonna end up doing. Okay, this can be erased because of the cape. This can be erased, and this can be erased. Up through here, a little bit through there. Much smaller and erase through here. Excuse me. Okay. Getting a little bit faster at this, not much. But a little bit. I'm using that one, so let's flip to this one. So it'll give me that. Give me that ability to creep in there. Oops. Let's go with this one. Something like that. And thin this out a little bit. There we go. I'm not bothering with full paws, no matter how much I kind of indicated that I would. Oh, full fingers, I mean. No matter how much I kind of indicated that I would earlier on. First off, their hands are so small that I really don't feel like bothering. And second off, I really don't like... I really don't like, I really don't like drawing hands to begin with, and drawing tiny hands would be so much worse. Okay. Let's go fix the tail. This. Jagged spikes, jagged spikes. Okay. Now. this one. Yeah, I don't really like how many spikes I have here on this side, so I'm trimming it down a little bit. Putting in something a little more appropriate. That and down like that. He's got a really large bushy tail. Yeah, I guess I've drawn them all about the same. Well, in terms of how big and bushy they are. Whoops. Okay. This gets to be erased. Alright, now to thin this all down a little bit. So that it actually looks more appropriate. I need this one, I think. A little larger than that. Let's go back in there. There we go. And at this point, I need to switch. This one needs to be upright. And this is generally why I like using the angled brushes. It gives me more of a feeling of control over how much I'm erasing, even though I know that one of the round brushes is probably just as appropriate in terms of what I could erase or draw, but I've just grown so used to doing this that it feels more right, I suppose. Gives me a better feeling of control over what I'm doing. And drawing with a computer is all about feeling comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable doing something, you're probably not going to be turning out some good results, no matter how much you practice. Unless, of course, the only reason you don't feel comfortable doing it is because, well, because you haven't done it like that before. You're trying something new. Generally, trying new things tends to feel a little uncomfortable. But really, the moment I found these brushes, it just felt amazingly comfortable to work with. So, I suppose that speaks in and of itself. That I haven't really ever gone back to just using the plain brushes for outlining. And I use them all the time for coloring. And you'll see that, you'll end up seeing that quite shortly, because we're getting pretty close to coloring time. Which is when everything comes together. So, I still use round brushes for coloring. Sometimes shading, I use these brushes in their larger sizes, because it allows me to just kind of swipe on in a specific pattern, and then I can slightly refine it later, but I don't feel like I need as much refining if I use brushes like these. I don't know if that's entirely true. I've never timed myself with the old brushes versus with the standard brushes versus with these. And I probably never will. Just me being lazy right there. I feel better using them, so I'll use them no matter what the truth ends up being. Okay. This needs to be thinned. Okay. And a little bit up here. Just go back out. There's a bit of a... right there. Thin this out a bit. So I don't want my lines being too thick. Don't want them being too thin either, but I don't want them being too thick. Okay. Should probably add another couple swooshes in here. Switch back to this. I am leaving them this thin on purpose because a lot of it's just going to be kind of hinted at and then worked in with shadow and light more than with actual crease lines. Doesn't look too bad. Put the background back in place. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one more squirrel down. 3 squirrels left, and then Nina to go. And then we're finished with outlining. See you next video.